Hey everyone, I recently got a call from a young friend of mine. I'm going to say that his age range is from 19 to 21 years old. He's a college student, and I'm going to call him Jeff, although that's not his real name. Jeff called me and told me that he was going to kill himself. He had been in a long-term relationship with his significant other, and he had poured a lot of himself into that relationship. Well, that relationship had ended, and Jeff was in excruciating pain. I talked to him for a little over 3 hours, and I determined that Jeff isn't going to kill himself, and he will eventually be okay. His call, though, left me thinking about the subject of suicide. In the U.S., the suicide rate is going up. About one person every 15 minutes commits suicide. And the rate is going up because in the age range from 15 years to 24-year-olds, the suicide rate is climbing. Suicide is painful. It's painful for the survivors, those that are left behind. And I'm one of those people. Shortly before I turned age 20, one of my older brothers committed suicide in the closet just off of my bedroom. He used a 12-gauge shotgun with a 3-inch Magnum shell, put the barrel under his chin, and pulled the trigger. I was standing in the next room. When I heard the gun go off, I was the first one on the scene. At first I was in shock. When that wore off, a whole range of emotions flooded through me. I was saddened. I was angry. I was dismayed. I felt betrayed. I was confused. And for a long time afterwards, I suffered from post-traumatic stress syndrome, or post-traumatic stress disorder. I was left with a lingering question. Why? Why did my brother commit suicide? Why does anybody commit suicide? In my brother's case, after a long search and a study in the field of psychology, I determined that he was depressed. And his depression was closely linked to the death of one of our brothers 10 months earlier from cancer. The two of them were very close growing up. In age, they were only 13 months apart. They did everything together. And when my brother died of cancer, the one that committed suicide did not talk about it. He didn't share his feelings or his thoughts with anyone. Caused him to go into a deep clinical depression, and we didn't recognize the symptoms until it was too late. In general, why do people commit suicide? It boils down to the fact that they're in pain, and their pain has exceeded their ability to cope with it. Usually, when someone commits suicide, they have two things that work against them. They don't have well-developed coping mechanisms to deal with the pain, and secondly, they don't have a well-developed social network of people that they can lean on and rely upon to help them deal with the pain that they're experiencing. If a person has well-developed coping mechanisms and has a well-developed social network, usually they don't commit suicide. So what causes the pain? The sources of the pain can be as varied as the person that commits suicide. It can stem from the life change that occurs when a person leaves a successful career and goes into retirement. It can come from the loneliness it's felt from a move from one geographic location to another. It can come from drug or alcohol abuse. It can come from sexual assault or sexual abuse. It can come from a breakup in a marriage. It can come from being bullied at school. It can come from the loss of a family member or a close friend. In fact, one of the articles that I read stated that if the person who is experiencing the loss of a family member or a close friend is an adolescent, and that loss was by suicide, then that person, the survivor, the surviving adolescent, is 500 times more likely to commit suicide. So what do you do if somebody comes to you and tells you that they're going to commit suicide or they're going to kill themselves? You want to be a good listener. You want to ask some questions. You want to find out how often they think about committing suicide. You want to find out how urgently they want to kill themselves when they're thinking about doing that. You want to find out if they have a plan. You want to find out if they have the means. In other words, did they go and buy a length of rope from the hardware store? Or if they were old enough, did they recently go and buy a gun? Lastly, you want to sort of ascertain what their general feeling about suicide is. And you do this by asking them if they feel that suicide is an action of strength or if suicide is an action of weakness. If they tell you it's an action of strength, they're in trouble. When you get the answers to these questions, you need to determine whether they're in immediate danger of committing suicide or if it's a thought that they're kicking around in their head and they really don't have any set plan to do it in the near future. Either way, they need to get help professionally. Until they get that help professionally, you can be their friend. Listen to them. Don't judge. Acknowledge that their feelings of pain are real and that they're valid. Spend time with them. You can make a big difference in their life by the way you react to them when they tell you that they're going to kill themselves. Let them know that you care about them. And above all, try to impress on them that the pain that they're experiencing does not have to last forever. That it can and it will eventually subside, even if they need a little bit of professional help in dealing with it.